Jake Sullivan gripped the controls of his cargo ship as red warning lights flashed all around him. The engine was making terrible noises and smoke filled the small cockpit. He had been flying cargo runs for 3 years, but nothing like this had ever happened before. Come on, he said to himself, trying to restart the hyperspace drive. The ship shook violently as sparks flew from the control panel. Through the front window, he could see strange purple clouds swirling around his ship. This was not normal space. This was somewhere he had never seen before. The ship suddenly dropped out of hyperspace with a loud bang. Jake looked out and saw a planet below him, covered in green forests and blue oceans. 2 moons hung in the purple sky like glowing pearls. It was beautiful, but Jake was falling toward it very fast. He tried to slow the ship down, but most of his systems were broken. The best he could do was aim for what looked like a clearing in the forest. The ship hit the ground hard, bouncing twice before sliding to a stop between tall trees with silver leaves. Jake sat still for a moment, checking if he was hurt. His head ached and his shoulder was sore, but he was alive. Smoke was coming from the engine room. He needed to get out fast before something exploded. He grabbed his emergency kit and climbed out of the ship. The air smelled sweet like flowers and rain. The gravity felt a little lighter than Earth. When he stepped on the soft ground, something strange happened. The plants around his feet seemed to turn toward him like they were happy to see him. Jake looked at his ship. The hull was cracked and one wing was completely broken. Black smoke poured from the back. His emergency beacon was smashed. Nobody would be able to find him here. He walked around the crash site looking for anything useful. The strange plants kept following his movements. When he knelt down to pick up a piece of metal, tiny flowers nearby opened their petals wide. It was like they were trying to get closer to him. "That's weird," Jake said out loud. His voice echoed in the quiet forest. Only the sound of wind in the silver leaves answered him. After an hour of searching through the wreckage, Jake heard voices. They were speaking in a language he did not know, but they sounded like people. He hid behind a large tree and watched. 3 figures walked into the clearing. They looked almost human, but their skin was pale blue and they had silver markings on their faces. They were tall and moved with grace. Jake stared in surprise. The leader was a woman with long white hair. She wore armor made of what looked like dark metal scales. A sword hung at her side. Behind her walked 2 men, but something was very strange about them. They wore long, colorful skirts that reached their ankles. Their hair was braided with beads and jewels. They carried no weapons, only small bags. Jake looked down at his own clothes. He wore simple pants, boots, and a jacket. Normal clothes for a cargo pilot, but seeing these people made him wonder if his clothes would seem strange to them. The woman in armor pointed at his crashed ship and said something to the men. They nodded and spread out to look around. One of them found Jake's footprints in the soft dirt. Jake knew he had to make a choice. He could try to hide, but they would probably find him anyway, or he could show himself and hope they were friendly. He took a deep breath and stepped out from behind the tree. All 3 aliens stopped and stared at him. The woman's hand moved to her sword. The 2 men gasped and stepped backward. One of them pointed at Jake's legs and said something that sounded shocked. "Hello," Jake said, raising his hands to show he was not dangerous. "I'm friendly." "My ship crashed." The woman tilted her head, studying him. She said something in her language. Jake shook his head to show he did not understand. She tried again, speaking more slowly. Then one of the men did something unexpected. He looked at Jake's pants, looked at his own skirt, then his eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground. The other man rushed to help him. "What just happened?" Jake asked, very confused. The woman in armor stepped closer. She looked at Jake from head to toe, paying special attention to his clothes. She seemed amazed and a little afraid. She spoke to her companion, who was still trying to wake up the man who had fainted. Suddenly, the air began to shimmer like heat waves. A bright light appeared between Jake and the aliens. The light grew brighter and took the shape of a woman. But this woman was different from the others. She glowed with silver light and her feet did not touch the ground. Her long dress seemed to be made of starlight. Jake's mouth fell open. This had to be some kind of goddess or spirit. The glowing woman looked at Jake and began to laugh. It was not mean laughter, but the kind of laugh someone makes when they see something very funny. She pointed at Jake's confused face and laughed even harder. Then, with a playful smile, she waved her hand. Jake felt a strange tingling feeling. He looked down and saw that his jacket was opening by itself. The zipper was moving down without anyone touching it. Underneath his jacket, His Earth Colonial Fleet badge was now visible. The goddess clapped her hands together with joy. "A human," she said in perfect English. "Oh, this is going to be wonderful." Jake stared at her. "You can speak my language?" "I can speak any language, little human," she said, still smiling. "I am Astrea, goddess of the moon and protector of warriors. And you, my dear lost pilot, are the most interesting thing to happen on this planet in 1,000 years. The woman in armor dropped to one knee. The man who was still awake did the same. The unconscious man was still lying on the ground. "Great Astrea," the armored woman said in English, though her accent was thick. "Is this truly what I think it is?" "Oh yes, Lyra," Astrea replied. "This is a real living human, just like in the old stories your grandmother used to tell you." Jake felt like he was in a dream. "Stories? What stories?" Astrea floated closer to him. "You, my dear human, are a legend made real. Your people are spoken of in our oldest books. They say humans can do impossible things. They say humans are the bravest, strongest, and smartest beings in all the galaxy." "I'm just a cargo pilot," Jake said weakly. The goddess laughed again. "Oh, you are so much more than that. And now that you are here, everything is going to change." Astrea waved her hand, and the man who had fainted suddenly woke up. He sat up, looked at Jake again, and made a small squeaking sound. "Caius, stop being dramatic," the woman in armor said. She stood up and walked closer to Jake. "I am Lyra Moonwhisper, commander of the Northern Guard. This is Caius Starweave and Marcus Dufall, my scouts." Jake nodded politely. "I'm Jake Sullivan. Thank you for helping me." Lyra stared at his clothes again. Those are leg coverings. On a male. How strange. You mean pants?" Jake looked down at his normal cargo pilot uniform. "What's strange about pants?" Caius whispered something to Marcus, who shook his head in amazement. Both men kept staring at Jake's legs like they had never seen anything like it before. Astrea floated between them, still glowing with silver light. "Jake Sullivan, let me explain something to you. On this world, men do not wear, what did you call them? Pants. Men wear skirts and robes. They make beautiful things and take care of homes and children. Women wear armor and fight battles and make important decisions." Jake felt his face turn red. "Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry if I'm dressed wrong." "You are not dressed wrong," Lyra said quickly. "You are dressed like a human. The old books say humans have different ways." "What old books?" Jake asked. Astrea smiled. "Would you like to see them?" "Lyra, take our guest to the city. I think his mother would be very interested to meet a real human." "My mother will not believe it," Lyra said. "She has read every human legend 20 times. "Then it will be a wonderful surprise," Astrea said. The goddess began to fade away like morning mist. "Take good care of him, Lyra. He is more special than he knows." After Astrea disappeared, Lyra looked at Jake with new respect.
"Can you walk far?"
"The city is 2 miles from here." "I can walk," Jake said. "But what about my ship?" "We will send people to guard it," Lyra promised. "Nothing will be taken." They started walking through the forest. Caius and Marcus walked behind Jake, whispering to each other. Every few minutes, one of them would giggle nervously. "Are they okay?" Jake asked Lyra quietly. "They have never seen a male dressed like you," Lyra explained. "It is very shocking for them. Caius designs clothes for important people. He is probably thinking about what you should wear." Jake looked back at the 2 men. They were both wearing beautiful skirts with complex patterns. Their hair was decorated with small jewels. They looked like they spent hours getting ready each morning. "Do all men here dress like that?" Jake asked. "Of course," Lyra said. "How else would they dress? Men must look beautiful and elegant. It is their role. And women dress like you." "Working women, yes. We wear practical clothes for fighting and leading. Though for special occasions, we also dress nicely." As they walked, Jake noticed more strange things. The plants really did seem to like him. Flowers opened when he passed by. Vines reached toward him like friendly pets. Even the trees seemed to lean in his direction. "The plants are acting weird around me," Jake said. Lyra had noticed too. The old stories say that nature loves humans. They say humans can make plants grow just by being near them. "That's impossible," Jake said. "Many things about humans are supposed to be impossible," Lyra replied. "That is why we thought you were myths." The forest ended and they came to a hill. At the top, Jake could see a city unlike anything he had ever imagined. The buildings were tall and graceful, made of white stone that seemed to glow in the purple sunlight. Bridges of crystal connected the towers high in the air. Gardens full of colorful flowers grew on every roof and balcony. "Welcome to Lumenshard," Lyra said proudly. As they walked through the city gates, people stopped to stare at Jake. Women in armor nodded respectfully to Lyra, but their eyes followed Jake with curiosity. Men in beautiful skirts and robes pointed at his pants and whispered to each other behind their hands. "Is everyone going to stare at me like this?" Jake asked. "Probably," Lyra said. "You are the first human anyone has ever seen." Some people thought humans were just stories. They walked through markets full of strange fruits and vegetables. Jake saw men selling flowers and jewelry, while women bought weapons and tools. Everything was backwards from what he was used to on Earth. Lyra led him to a large house made of the same glowing white stone as the other buildings. Gardens surrounded it, full of plants that sparkled like they had tiny stars in their leaves. "This is my family's home," Lyra said. "My mother will want to meet you immediately." They went inside. The house was beautiful, with high ceilings and windows that showed the city below. A tall woman with silver hair came to greet them. She wore a uniform covered in medals and badges. Her sword was even more beautiful than Lyra's. "Mother, this is Jake Sullivan," Lyra said. "He is a human." The older woman's eyes went wide. She walked around Jake, looking at him from every angle. "Impossible," she whispered. "But the legends, they said humans wear strange leg coverings." "These are pants," Jake said helpfully. "Pants," she repeated like she was learning a new word. "Amazing. I am General Maya Moonwhisper, Lyra's mother. You are welcome in our home, legendary one." "Please just call me Jake," he said. "I'm really not legendary. I just deliver cargo." "Nonsense," Maya said. "You are here, are you not? The goddess herself spoke to you. That makes you legendary." A man appeared from another room. He was tall and graceful, wearing a skirt made of shimmering blue fabric. His hair was braided with silver threads and he wore delicate jewelry on his wrists and neck. "Father, come meet the human," Lyra called. The man gasped when he saw Jake. He walked over and gently touched Jake's jacket sleeve. "This fabric," he said in a soft voice. "So rough and practical. And these are pants. How do you move gracefully in such things?" "I move fine," Jake said, confused. "I am Orion Moonwhisper," the man said. "I design clothes for the royal family. These garments you wear, they are so strange, so masculine. They're just normal clothes where I come from." Orion looked like he might faint, just like Caius had. "Normal? But how do you show your beauty? How do you attract a mate? How do you express your artistic soul?" Jake looked at Lyra for help. She smiled and patted her father's shoulder. "Father, remember what the legends say. Humans have different ways." "Different indeed," Orion said, still staring at Jake's clothes. "We must get you properly dressed immediately. I cannot have a guest in my house wearing such pants?" Jake suggested. "Yes, those things," Orion said with a shudder. A younger man appeared in the doorway. He was smaller than the others, with gentle eyes and books in his arms. He wore a simple green skirt and no jewelry at all. "This is my son Felix," Maya said. "He studies old languages and history." Felix dropped his books when he saw Jake. "By the 7 moons," he whispered. "A real human, just like in the ancient texts." He picked up his books and stepped closer. "Can you really lift heavy things? Can you run for miles without getting tired? Can you solve problems that stump everyone else?" "I can do those things," Jake said slowly. "But so can lots of people." "Not here," Felix said excitedly. "We are not as strong as humans are supposed to be. We cannot run as far or work as long, and the old books say humans think in ways that nobody else can." "What else do these books say about humans?" Jake asked. Maya smiled. "That is a very long story, but first we must get you fed and properly clothed. You look tired from your journey. And those pants must go," Orion added firmly. "I have a reputation to maintain." Jake looked down at his perfectly normal clothes, then at the family of friendly aliens who thought he was some kind of legendary hero. This was definitely not how he had planned to spend his day. "Okay," he said finally. "But I have no idea how to wear a skirt." Orion clapped his hands together with joy. "Oh, this will be wonderful. A human in proper clothing. The whole city will want to see." Jake wondered what he had gotten himself into. 3 days had passed since Jake arrived in Lumenshard. Orion had dressed him in a beautiful blue skirt with silver thread, but Jake kept tripping over it. The whole city was talking about the human who had fallen from the sky. Jake was eating breakfast with the Moon Whisper family when Lyra burst through the door. Her face was worried. "The High Priestess is coming," she announced. With temple guards, Maya stood up quickly. "Celine, what does she want?" "She wants to test Jake," Lyra said. "She does not believe he is really human." Through the window, Jake could see a group of people in white robes walking toward the house. The woman leading them was tall and thin, with pale skin and cold eyes. She carried a staff topped with a crystal that glowed with blue light. "Who is the High Priestess?" Jake asked. "Celine Voidcaller," Felix explained quietly. "She leads the temple and does not like change. She thinks all the stories about humans are just fairy tales." The group reached the house. Maya opened the door before they could knock. "High Priestess," Maya said politely. "What brings you to my home?" Celine stepped inside without being invited. Her cold eyes fixed on Jake immediately. "So this is the creature causing so much excitement in the city." "I am Jake Sullivan," Jake said, standing up. "Nice to meet you." Celine walked around him slowly, like she was looking at something unpleasant. "You look ordinary to me. Weak, even. And those ridiculous clothes." She gestured at his skirt with disgust. "The goddess Estrella herself confirmed he is human," Lyra said firmly. "Estrella enjoys jokes," Celine replied. "I think someone is playing a trick on us all." "What kind of trick?" Jake asked. "You are probably just a lost traveler from another world," Celine said. "Someone who learned a few human stories and decided to pretend." Jake felt his face getting hot. "I'm not pretending anything." "Then prove it," Celine said with a cold smile. "If you are truly human, you can pass the trials of the Starborn." Maya gasped. "Celine, those trials are deadly. They were designed to be impossible." "Exactly," Celine said. "If he is human, the trials will be easy for him. If he is not, we will know the truth." "What are these trials?" Jake asked. Felix spoke up nervously. 3 tests that were made 1,000 years ago. They were designed to test a real human if one ever came to our world. No Veltherans has ever passed even one of them. Because they are meant for beings with legendary abilities, Celine said. If you refuse, everyone will know you are a fake. Jake looked around the room. Maya and Orion looked worried. Felix looked scared. Lyra looked angry. "When?" Jake asked. "Tomorrow at dawn," Celine said. "The whole city will watch. I hope you are ready to be embarrassed." After the High Priestess left, the family sat in worried silence. "You do not have to do this," Maya said. "We know you are human." "But if I don't, people will always wonder," Jake replied. "What exactly are these trials?" Felix brought out an old book with faded writing. "The first trial is the Maze of Whispers. It is a place that shows you your fears and makes you go crazy. Most people cannot stay inside for more than a few minutes. The second trial is fighting the Beast of Shadowmere," Lyra added. "It is a giant creature that lives in the old temple, very strong and very angry. And the third trial is the Forge of Stars," Orion said quietly. "You must create something that burns with the fire of human cleverness." Nobody knows what that means. Jake spent the rest of the day learning everything he could about the trials. That night he could not sleep. Through his window he could see crowds of people gathering in the city center. Word had spread fast. At dawn, thousands of people filled the great square in front of the temple. Jake walked out wearing his Earth uniform. He had asked Orion to let him wear his own clothes for this. Celine stood on the temple steps with her crystal staff. "Citizens of Lumenshard, today we will learn the truth about this stranger." The crowd cheered. Jake saw the Moon Whisper family standing together, looking worried. Other faces in the crowd showed excitement, fear, and curiosity. "The first trial begins now," Celine announced. She led Jake to a large building made of black stone. The entrance was covered with strange symbols that seemed to move when he looked at them. "Inside is the Maze of Whispers," Celine explained. "You must reach the center and bring back the golden key that waits there. If you are human, your mind will be strong enough to resist the maze's power." Jake looked at the dark entrance. "What exactly does the maze do?" "It shows you things that are not real," Felix called out from the crowd. "Things that make you afraid. It makes you think you are lost forever." Jake nodded and walked into the maze. The entrance closed behind him with a loud noise. Inside, the walls were covered with mirrors that showed twisted versions of his reflection. Voices whispered things he could not understand. The air was cold and smelled like old fear. Jake started walking. The maze was full of dead ends and confusing turns. Every few minutes he would see something scary in the mirrors. Monsters, fire, people he cared about in danger. But Jake had been trained for emergencies. He knew these were not real. Just stay calm, he told himself. Look for patterns. Every maze has a pattern. He started marking the walls with small stones from his pocket. After an hour, he began to see the pattern. The maze was not random. It was like a broken computer program, repeating the same mistakes over and over. In the center of the maze, Jake found something unexpected. Instead of just a golden key, there was a large machine covered in dust. It had screens and wires, and it was making the whispers and controlling the mirrors. Jake looked closer. The machine was broken. Some wires were disconnected and several parts were missing. He recognized the technology. It was similar to navigation computers he had worked on, using tools from his emergency kit. Jake fixed the broken connections and replaced the missing parts with pieces from his own equipment. The machine hummed to life, and suddenly the scary whispers stopped. The mirrors showed normal reflections. The maze began to change. The black walls became white, and flowers started growing in the corners. The golden key sat on a pedestal that rose from the floor. Jake took the key and walked back to the entrance. When he came out, the crowd was amazed. The trial was supposed to take all day, but he had finished in 2 hours. Impossible, Selena whispered. He did it, Lyra shouted happily. For the second trial, they went to the old temple ruins outside the city. Deep underground was a chamber where the beast of Shadowmere lived. This creature has never been defeated, Selene said. It is as large as a house and stronger than 10 warriors. Jake climbed down into the dark chamber. He could hear something large moving in the shadows. Then he saw it. A creature like a giant wolf, but with 6 legs and silver fur. It was indeed as big as a house, but something was wrong. The beast was limping and it made sounds of pain. Jake could see a large wound on its side that looked infected. Instead of fighting, Jake approached slowly. Easy there, big guy. You're hurt, aren't you? The beast growled but did not attack. Jake had always been good with animals. He opened his medical kit and started cleaning the wound. The beast was surprised but held still. After Jake bandaged the wound, something amazing happened. The beast began to shrink. It became the size of a normal wolf, then smaller, until it was like a large dog. It looked at Jake with intelligent eyes and made a sound that was almost like, "Thank you." "You're not a monster at all," Jake said, petting the creature's head. "You're just a smart animal who was hurt and angry." The beast followed Jake out of the chamber. When the crowd saw them walking together, they could not believe it. "The beast is tamed," someone shouted. "Only a human could do this." Another person called out. Selene's face was pale. 2 trials completed, and Jake had not even broken a sweat. The final trial was held in the temple's highest tower. Jake had to create something that burned with the fire of human cleverness. The room contained tools and materials, but no instructions. Jake looked around at the items available. There were metals, crystals, wires, and other things he did not recognize. Then he had an idea. Using parts from his crashed ship that Lyra had brought, along with the materials in the room, Jake built something the Veltharans had never seen before, a radio transmitter. It took him 4 hours to put it together. When he turned it on, it made crackling sounds. Then suddenly a voice came through the speaker. "This is Captain Ross of the Earthship Horizon. Is anyone out there?" The crowd gasped. Jake picked up the microphone. "Captain Ross, this is Jake Sullivan. I'm stranded on an unknown planet with friendly people." "Jake, we've been looking for you for days. Can you send coordinates?" Jake looked at the crowd of amazed Veltharans. "Actually, Captain, I think you need to come meet some new friends." As the crowd cheered, Astria appeared in a shower of silver light. She was clapping her hands with joy. "Wonderful," the goddess announced. "The trials are passed. Jake Sullivan is indeed human, and he has proven that humans truly can do impossible things." Even Selene had to admit defeat. She bowed to Jake respectfully. "I was wrong. Forgive me, human Jake." Jake smiled and helped her stand up. "There's nothing to forgive. You were just being careful with your people." That night, the whole city celebrated. Jake was officially declared the first human to visit Valthara. But more importantly, he had made contact with Earth. His adventure was far from over. 2 weeks after Jake's successful trials, everything changed. The celebration was cut short when Jake's radio picked up a new signal. This one was not from Earth. Jake was in the Moonwhisper family garden trying to teach Felix how to fix engines when the emergency alert came through his radio. "Warning, warning. This is Admiral Chen of the Earthship Horizon. Unknown fleet approaching Velthara system. Ships appear hostile. All Earth citizens take cover immediately. Jake jumped up and ran to his radio. Admiral Chen, this is Jake Sullivan. What kind of ships? Jake, thank God you're alive. We count 40 vessels unknown design. They're scanning the planet and jamming our communications. We think they're slavers called the Korthak Empire. Felix dropped his tools. Korthak? They are the worst. They steal people and make them work until they die. Jake's blood turned cold. Admiral, the people here are friendly. They need protection. We only have 3 ships, Jake. We're outnumbered. Lyra came running into the garden, still wearing her armor from patrol duty. Jake, my mother needs you at headquarters immediately. Ships have appeared in the sky. At the military headquarters, General Maya was studying reports with her officers. When Jake arrived, she looked relieved. Jake, we need your help, Maya said. These Korthak have attacked 12 other worlds in the past year. They take prisoners and destroy cities. Our scouts say they are very strong. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Korthak fleet was huge, with ships much larger than anything the Veltharans had. What are your defenses like? Jake asked. We have good warriors and energy weapons, Maya replied. But we have never fought a space battle like this. The Korthak specialize in ground assault, Jake explained. They'll try to land troops and overwhelm you with numbers. Earth has fought them before. I know their tactics. An officer rushed in with a message crystal. General, the enemy is sending a communication. They activated the crystal and a hologram appeared. It showed a large, ugly creature with gray skin and too many teeth. Its voice was like grinding metal. People of this world, I'm War Commander Grak of the Korthak Empire. You will surrender now or we will take what we want by force. We know you have a human among you. Give him to us and perhaps some of you will live. The hologram flickered off. Everyone looked at Jake. They want me specifically? Jake asked. Humans are rare in this part of space, Maya said. The Korthaks probably want to study you or sell you to collectors. Jake felt angry. These monsters wanted to hurt innocent people just to get to him. Well, they can't have me. And they're not taking anyone from this planet. But Jake, Felix said quietly, there are so many of them. How can we fight? Jake studied the tactical display again. An idea was forming in his mind. Maya, how many warriors do you have? 5,000 trained fighters, she replied. But only half have military experience. That might be enough, Jake said. But we need to change how your people fight. What do you mean? Veltharans fight like knights, brave, but each warrior fights alone. Humans fight differently. We work together as one big team. I can teach your people Earth military tactics. Maya looked uncertain. Our ways have worked for centuries. Against other Veltharans, yes. But the Korthaks fight like humans do, as organized groups. You need to fight the same way to win. Lyra stepped forward. I will learn these new ways. My warriors trust me. And I will help, Felix added, surprising everyone. I may not be a warrior, but I can learn. Orion looked worried. Felix, fighting is not for males. It is too dangerous. Father, Felix said firmly, Jake is male, and he is the best fighter here. Maybe our old ways are not the only ways. Jake nodded. On Earth, everyone fights when their home is in danger. Men, women, doesn't matter. What matters is protecting the people you care about. Maya made her decision. Show us these human tactics. For the next 2 days, Jake worked nonstop. He taught the Veltharans about squad formations, coordinated attacks, and battlefield communication. It was hard work because they had to forget everything they knew about fighting. Lyra was the fastest learner. She understood that warriors needed to work together instead of seeking personal glory. Soon she was teaching other officers. Felix surprised everyone by being good at strategy. His knowledge of history helped him understand how to defend the city. Even Caius and Marcus joined the training. If Felix can fight, so can we, Caius declared, looking very determined in his combat skirt. Jake also worked on weapons. Using parts from his ship and local materials, he showed the Veltharans how to make better armor and more powerful energy weapons. On the 3rd day, the Korthak ships began landing. Huge transports came down in the forests around Lumenshard, carrying thousands of enemy soldiers. Jake watched from the city walls as the Korthak army formed up. They were big, mean-looking creatures with advanced weapons and armor. Their leader was the same monster who had sent the surrender message. Scared yet human, War Commander Grak's voice came through a loudspeaker. Come out now and I will kill your friends quickly. Jake picked up his own loudspeaker. How about you come and get me, ugly? Grak roared with anger. Attack! Bring me that human alive! The battle began with the Korthax charging toward the city. They expected the Valthorans to meet them in individual combat, like knights of old. Instead, Jake's new strategy worked perfectly. The Valthorans stayed in tight groups supporting each other. When the Korthax tried to surround one warrior, 5 others would help. When the enemy attacked from one direction, the Valthorans would attack from another direction. Lyra led her squad like Jake had taught her, using hand signals and coordinated movements. Felix commanded a group of scouts who provided information about enemy positions. Even Caius and Marcus fought bravely, their colorful skirts flowing as they moved. But there were too many Korthax. Slowly, the Valtharans were pushed back toward the city walls. We need a new plan, Lyra shouted over the noise of battle. Jake looked at the enemy formation. He had an idea, but it was very dangerous. I'm going to capture their command ship, he announced. That's suicide, Maya said through her communicator. Not if I do it right, Jake replied. Their whole army is controlled from that ship. If I can take it over, I can turn their own weapons against them. I'm coming with you, Lyra said. And me, Felix added. This isn't your fight, Jake protested. Yes, it is, Lyra said firmly. You are our friend. We protect our friends, Jake smiled. This was exactly the kind of loyalty that made humans so effective in battle, but now the Valthorans were learning it too. Okay, he said, but we do this my way. As the sun set over the battlefield, Jake, Lyra, and Felix prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. The fate of the entire planet depended on 3 friends working together against impossible odds. Behind them, Astrea appeared in her shimmering light. Be careful, my brave ones. The galaxy is watching. No pressure, Jake muttered, checking his weapons one last time. The real battle was about to begin. Jake, Lyra, and Felix moved through the dark forest toward the Korthak command ship. The massive vessel sat in a clearing, surrounded by guards and smaller attack craft. Its hull was black metal covered in spikes and weapon ports. How do we get inside? Lyra whispered. Jake pointed to a service hatch near the bottom of the ship. Maintenance entrance. Most crews forget to guard those properly. They waited for the guards to move away, then crept closer. Felix had brought a bag of tools and electronic devices he had learned to use during their training. I can't believe I'm doing this, Felix muttered as he worked on the lock. A week ago I was just reading books. You're braver than you think, Jake said softly. The hatch opened with a quiet click. They slipped inside the ship's lower deck. The corridors were dark and smelled like machine oil and alien sweat. Jake led them toward the command center, using skills he had learned in Earth military training. They avoided patrol groups and security cameras by moving carefully and staying in the shadows. When they reached the command deck, they could see War Commander Grak through a window. He was shouting orders at his officers, directing the battle outside. There are too many guards, Lyra said, counting the enemies between them and their target. Not for long, Jake replied. He pulled out a small device he had built from ship parts. Electromagnetic pulse grenade. It will shut down their electronics for about 10 minutes. What happens to us when the lights go out? Felix asked. We improvise, Jake said with a grin. He threw the device into the command center. There was a bright flash and all the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, but it was dim and red. In the confusion, Jake and his friends rushed into the command center. The Korthak guards were stumbling around in the dark, confused and blind. Jake tackled War Commander Grak while Lyra and Felix fought the other guards. The battle was fierce but short. The Korthaks were tough, but they were not used to fighting in the dark. When the lights came back on, Jake was sitting in the commander's chair with Grak's weapon pointed at the monster's head. Tell your army to stop fighting, Jake ordered. Grak laughed, showing his terrible teeth. You think you have won, human? There are thousands of my warriors down there. And they all take orders from this ship, Jake replied. He started pressing buttons on the control panel. Felix, can you figure out their communication system? Felix sat down at another console, his fingers flying over the alien controls. I think so. These symbols are similar to ones in the old books. What are you doing? Grak demanded. Jake smiled. Something very human. I'm turning your own weapons against you. Through the ship's systems, Jake took control of the Korthak ground forces. He activated their retreat signals and turned off their weapons. On the battlefield below, thousands of confused Korthak soldiers started walking back toward their ships. Impossible, Grak roared. You are just one human. That's the thing about humans, Jake said. We don't fight fair. We fight smart. Lyra was monitoring the communications. Jake, the Earthships are moving to attack the Korthak fleet. Perfect timing, Jake said. He activated the ship's main transmitter. Admiral Chen, this is Jake Sullivan. I have control of the Korthak command ship. Their ground forces are retreating. Outstanding work, Jake, came the reply. We're moving in to finish this. The space battle was brief. Without their command ship to coordinate them, the Korthak fleet broke apart. Some ships surrendered, others fled into hyperspace. War Commander Grak slumped in defeat. You have won this time, human. But the Empire will return. Then we'll be ready, Jake said firmly. 3 hours later, the battle was over. The Korthak prisoners were being held on the Earthships. The city of Lumenshard was safe. Jake stood on the city walls watching the twin moons rise over the valley. Lyra found him there, still wearing her battle armor. You saved us all, she said, standing beside him. We saved everyone, Jake corrected. I couldn't have done it alone. The Council wants to make you a permanent citizen, Lyra said. With full honors and a place in the government. Jake looked at her. What do you want me to do? Lyra was quiet for a long moment. I want you to stay, but I know you have your own life out there among the stars. Actually, Jake said, I've been thinking about that. My cargo pilot job was pretty boring. This is much more interesting. Before Lyra could reply, Astria appeared in her usual shower of silver light. Oh, good. You're both here, the goddess said happily. I have wonderful news. The Galactic Council has agreed to meet with Valthara about joining the interstellar community. They want Jake to be your ambassador. Me? Jake asked, surprised. I don't know anything about being an ambassador. You know about bringing different people together, Astrea pointed out. You've already done it once. 6 months later, Jake stood in the same garden where he had first met the Moonwhisper family. He was wearing formal Veltharen's clothes, a beautiful purple skirt with silver embroidery. He had finally learned to walk in it without tripping. Lyra stood beside him wearing a dress instead of armor for once. They were getting married in an hour, and Jake was nervous. You look good in purple, Lyra said, straightening his collar. I still feel weird in skirts, Jake admitted. You'll get used to it, Felix said, walking up to them. He now wore the uniform of a galactic translator, having been chosen to help other worlds communicate with each other. Orion appeared, fussing with the decorations. Everything must be perfect. This is the first human Valtharan's wedding in history. General Maya arrived wearing her dress uniform. She had been promoted to Planetary Defense Coordinator and was working with Earth military advisors. The Earth ships are ready to take you on your honeymoon trip, she announced. Captain Ross says he's excited to show you the new colonies. Astrea materialized near the wedding arch, which was covered in flowers that sparkled like stars. Are we ready to begin? As Jake and Lyra walked toward the arch, Jake thought about how much his life had changed. A year ago, he was just a cargo pilot with a boring job. Now he was married to a warrior princess living on an alien world and helping to bring different species together. The ceremony was beautiful, mixing human and Valtharan's traditions. When Jake and Lyra kissed, the whole crowd cheered. Even the plants in the garden seemed to celebrate, growing taller and blooming with bright colors. That night at the celebration party, Jake stood on a balcony looking up at the stars. Lyra joined him, now wearing comfortable clothes instead of her fancy dress. Do you ever miss Earth? She asked. Sometimes, Jake said honestly. But this is home now. These are my people now. All of them? Lyra asked with a smile. Humans, Valtharans, whoever needs help, Jake replied. That's what humans do. We bring people together. A shooting star crossed the purple sky above them. Jake made a wish. That the galaxy would become a place where all species could live together in peace. As if she could read his thoughts, Astrea appeared one last time. Your wish will come true, the goddess said softly. Humans are very good at making impossible things happen, and now you have taught others to be the same way. Jake smiled and put his arm around Lyra. Tomorrow they would travel to other worlds, helping more species join the growing galactic community. There would be new adventures, new friends, and new challenges. But tonight, under the twin moons of Valthara, Jake Sullivan was exactly where he belonged. He had crashed on a world where men wear skirts, and it had turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to him. The stars twinkled overhead. full of possibilities for the future. And in the garden below, the flowers continued to bloom, drawn by the presence of a human who had learned that being different was the most powerful thing of all.